Hey there, YouTube. This is Mr. Budget. We're winding down to the end of the 2023 year, and I know you guys. I have been on hiatus for other things, school. I recently started school, tournament reasons, things like that. But I had some free time, so I thought, why not go through the gambit of all the decks and things I've been tinkering around with, and just give you a pretty long video, just to tie over until next year and things like that. So I figured I'd just show you a few decks I've been working on for the upcoming ban list that's coming up for next year. Hopefully the meta does change and allow some of these different strategies to play a part, even though if it might be a small part, but at least a part in the upcoming meta for 2024. So I think I'll start off with the most interesting deck and whittle down to what is meta viable in my opinion. So I think I'll start off with Dark Irregulars and then work my way down. So the first deck we're going to look at is going to be Demonic Dragon of Hades Flames Baphometes. So I've been working on this deck and trying to make it into a premium deck. It's okay. It does get its abilities off. It can win a game here or there, but it's very niche and you have to play it a very particular way to get an outcome. This deck is not reliant on the extra deck other than just to get GB effects online for certain cards that you may need, or just massively building the soul. But outside of that, you really don't need your G zone. We'll go over it, but the DI, in my opinion, the DIG zone has not really changed and won't really change unless they unban forgot his name, Evil God Bishop Gastile, Pothos. That card alone is the best DI stride that the clan has, and without it, you really can't rely on a lot of the newer strides that we got or anything else because they really don't do anything. Some of them just massively soul charge or give a weird guard trick that your opponent really doesn't care about. They don't give crits. They don't give the board a lot of power. You do get one of the cards do allow you to attack with the Vanguard twice, but at this given point, unless you're getting some massive power behind it, there's really nothing you can do. You have to build your deck around that, and to do that, you're leaving out a lot of good soul chargers and things like that to gain some power. So unless they give DI a brand new start that changes its whole landscape, a lot of the DI decks, you really don't rely on your G zone outside of your G Guardians. But we're gonna go into this deck and see about all the different parts that make it work. So we're gonna go with the grade 3s first. So like I said, this is 4 copies of Demonic Lord of Hades Flames Baphometes. This is a overdress boss. For those who don't know what this card does, and just let me get this centered right there. For those who don't know what this deck does, well, this card does, he has a very interesting skill. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may put 2 of your other rearguard grade 3 units into the soul and then draw a card. And then he gets all of the abilities down below listed for the number of grade 3s in your soul. If you have 3 or more, all of your grade 3s become 5k shields in the hand and they gain the ability to boost. And then if you have 6 or more, your opponent must guard with 3 or more cards from the hand when guarding his attack. But the caveat to that is when you do suck in those rear guards, you get plus 10k power for each 3 grade 3s in your soul. So for every 3 grade 3s in your soul, he gets additional 10k power. So we know with DI, you're basically soul charging like crazy. So you're gonna get that number up there. And then with having the ability to have your grade 3s boost, that also gets an additional 13k power on top of his own power. So his bare minimum column will be 26, which is a stride column. And then it can go from 26 to 36 to 46 to 56 and higher and higher and higher. So it will be really hard for your opponent to guard with 3 cards in their hand, especially when your other rear guards are raring to attack. So that is the boss of the deck. Next, we play 3 copies of Heat Haze Acrobat Mavasava. So Mavasava is here to get our things out of our soul. So when she is placed from the hand, you can counterblast 1 and grab anything in your soul that matches the grade of your Vanguard or below, and then call it to rearguard circle. If the card that you call is a copy of your Vanguard, you add that card to your hand and she gets plus 5k. So you're not really worried about that last part because you really don't want to deal with getting extra copies of Baphometus in the hand. What you really want is get your utility like your grade 2s, your grade 1s, your searchers, your counter chargers, those type of things. So she's here just to get those off, and she's a 3k unit, so she works with Baphometus. Next, we play 3 copies of Time Jetter Dragon. This is just another way to get your grade 3s into your soul. It's just another way to get your grade 3s into your soul. So Time Jetter Dragon says, when placed from anywhere, put a card from your hand into your soul and draw 1 card. So again, you're going to want to put your grade 3s into your soul to build that count up. That way you're building towards your threshold and your end game and things like that. So he's just another good utility card. And from V, we're playing 3 copies of Number of Terror. Now the reason why we're playing Number of Terror is for a couple of reasons. A, if you have 10 or more cards in your soul, he gets plus 10k power, which makes him a 22k attacker or a 22k booster. 2, if you have 10 or more cards in soul, he becomes a 10k shield. Pair that with Baphometus' skill, he becomes a 15k shield in hand. And 3, when he does attack, he can suck in another grade 3 to draw you 2 additional cards. On top of the 1 additional card of Baphometus plus the 2 twin drive. So within 1 turn, you're drawing 5 cards. Excuse me. You're drawing 5 cards, so he pairs very well with this deck strategy. And last but not least, we're playing 4 copies of our grade 3 Hill Guardians. They're grade 3s. They go into the soul. It just boosts up Baphometus' effect. So those are all the grade 3s. There are switchable, exchangeable with other grade 3 that you might want to play. So this is not a 100%. This is what you want to run. Play what you think is more comfortable. Play what you think is going to get you there faster. For the grade 2s, we play 3 copies of Demonted Executioner. Vanguard rearguard skill, when placed, counterblast 1, soul charge 3. If any triggers are shown within that soul charge, draw an additional card. When on the Vanguard circle, when he's attacking a grade 2 or higher, he gains 5k, so he can hit over force grade 2s. You play 3 copies of Amazing Frost. This is from the D series, so he works similar to Time Jetter Dragon. When placed from anywhere, soul blast 1, draw a card, and then put 1 card from your hand into your soul. So he kind of works in reverse of Time Jetter, but they both basically do the exact same thing. He's also a 10k unit, so he's good for a ride target. You play 3 copies of Deep Goddess. This is our ride fixer. So for those who don't know, before when you're in the ride phase, you can discard this card and look at the top 5 and look for a grade 2 or lower card and add to your hand. And then he has the other unique abilities when he's when he's boosted, Vanguard or rearguard. You can soul blast 1 card, choose a card on your field, and search your deck and drop zone for up to 3 copies of that card and put them into your soul. So this is a good way to get your grade 3s that are in your drop zone back into your soul. And last, we play 3 copies of Prognos Duro. So what Duro does is she works like an OTT unit. If you have 5 or more cards in your soul, when she attacks anything, you may look at the top card of your deck, and you may decide whether you want to put it into your soul or you want to leave it on top of your deck. So if there's a trigger, leave it on deck. If there's anything else, shove it into the soul, so that way you have a better chance of hitting your triggers. And she also works on Vanguard or rearguard, so you have a bunch of Vanguard grade 2 targets. Next are our grade 1s, very simple. Since this is a grade 3 orchestrated strategy, we're going to want as many grade 3 searchers. So we're playing 4 copies of DI's grade 3 searcher, Succubus of Pure Love. You all should know what these type of cards do. When placed, Vanguard or rearguard from hand, look at the top 5, add a grade 3. If you do, discard a card. Her unique skill is whenever a card is soul charged during your turn, she gets plus 5k. The other grade 3 searcher that we're playing are 4 copies of Alluring Succubus. So her ability is, On board, counterblast 1, put her into soul. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Reveal up to 2 different grade 3s. 1 goes into soul and 1 goes into your hand. So that way you can build your soul and build your card advantage in hand at the exact same time for a counterblast. So you get a soul charge 2 and an additional -0 to hand. These are all of the grade 1s that we play in this deck. Since you're playing abundance of grade 3s, the grade 1s have to suffer because you're only going to use them for your grade 3 searching. So for the triggers, of course we're playing 1 of the Dark States over trigger. Can't really go wrong with it. We're playing 4 copies of Monochrome of Nightmareland, 4 copies of March Rabbit of Nightmareland, and 3 copies of Bane Stinger. So this is our crit stride, and then playing the 1 V starter. So that's the entirety of this deck and its concept. So you just want to get a bunch of grade 3s in the soul, bash face, and try to pressure your opponent with guard restricts and just trigger sack them as best as you can. For the G zone, like I said, this deck really doesn't rely too much on it. We have Gravidius, just a way to soul charge, get a weird guard restrict that most times or not your opponent doesn't really care for. Gravidius is flip target. We're never really going to go into this card. 4 facts. After Baphometa's attacks, if you are trying to close out the game and you have some crits in your soul, and your deck is less than 13, you can counterblast 1, discard 5 cards from your hand, and stride and superior stride this card over your grade 3 as stand, and then send up to 3 critical triggers from your soul to the deck, shuffle, and then you get another Vanguard attempt. You play 2 copies of Balam. Again, this is another way to soul charge. He becomes a quad drive, and if you're at GB2, he gets a guard restrict. And then we play 4 copies of Blader Mouse. Just another way to recur our triggers and try to get a double Vanguard swing. So really, you don't really care for these because again, they're not as great as of right now like they used to be back in the day when the game was a lot slower. These are just utility. You can go into them if you just need more soul, or you need some niche way to kind of close out the game, or you can't get Baphometa's effect off, so you just go into a stride. These are kind of the best options for DI right now. Then we play 1 copy of the Progenitor, 1 copy of the Zeroth. Progenitor you'll go into more times than that as your first try. Zero Dragon, I really haven't gotten to a point where this is beneficial. It's just there if it ever goes off. So those are all the stride units. For G Guardians, we're playing 1 False Swings, 1 Natsu, 2 Rebellious Storm Princess. Nega crit, 10k shields, 5k shield soul charge. Just the bread and butter of most DI G Guardians nowadays. Again, we need new stuff to warrant playing a G zone. You can play without a G zone. It's possible, but we desperately need new stuff. Like Bushiroad, come on, we need a new we need a new premium set soon. Alright, so that is the DI portion. So we're gonna go to the next one, which is OTT. So the unique OTT deck we're gonna go next into is the Goddess of the Sun, Amaterasu. Amaterasu is one of the lesser OTT decks, mainly because there's not too much support for her. Again, they've been focusing on a lot of other things like Susanoo, Battle Sisters, Witches, Magus as the mainstream decks. If you guys are interested in those versions, I have done deck profiles on them. You guys can find them on the channel. I'll put a link somewhere in this video, or I'll tag it down below. But I've always been interested in the Goddess of the Sun build for just the fact that it is the most obscured one out of all of them, and no one really focuses on her. But today we're going to take a good look at what I came up with for her deck build. So we're going to go to the grade 3s as always. We played 4 copies of Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu. So this is the upgraded version of CEO Amaterasu. Her ability And to mention this is that it's really weird they didn't do anything with the 2 units of her. There's no cross ride, there's no break ride version of the power to get, if the other one is in the soul, she gets additional ability. They were really, to me, they were really lacking on that. They missed a good opportunity to make to put the synergy behind those 2 grade 3s, just to warrant to play them together. But her effect is in deck, when this unit is revealed for an ability of one of your cards, you can bind the top card of your deck, give your Vanguard plus 10k in a crit. So in deck, as she is revealed, she becomes a critical trigger. Mind you, OTD reveals a lot of cards out of their deck. That is technically their gimmick. That's how they get a lot of their card advantage and card abilities off. So you're going to reveal a lot. Alright, so her other ability is Vanguard of Vigor. When she attacks, you can discard 1 card from your hand. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, rearrange them in any order, put them back on top of your deck, and then draw 1 card. So she allows you to pretty much manipulate the top 3 cards of your deck, and so that way you know what your drive checks are going to be. Her other form, which is the original form, is CEO Amaterasu. So normally you want to go into CEO to stay. You normally want to stay on CEO and kind of top deck, excuse me, top deck Goddess of the Sun. But if you want to ride that one, because she also has a Vanguard Rearguard ability, they both do. So her only Vanguard skill is once per turn, counterblast 1, draw 1 card. Look at the top card of your deck, put it on top or bottom of your deck. So again, you're manipulating the top card of your deck. Then her other ability is Vanguard Rearguard. When you look at your deck, due to an effect during your turn, this unit gets plus 5k. Mind you, that ability is not once per turn, so it does stack. So she can get very big, very fast. Normally within this deck, you're looking at the top card of your deck maybe 3 to 4, even sometimes even 5 times. So max 5, you're putting 25k power on her by herself. She will hit for 37 by herself, not to mention a booster. So people sleep on her a lot, but she can get very big very fast. So those are all the grade 3s that we play. Next are for the grade 2s. We play 4 copies of Weather Girl Musk. So Musk is a very interesting card for this deck. I would trade her out for the grade 2 Ishikishima if I had her. Still looking for that card. I don't know where I put it, so I have this in here for right now. But Ichikishima is a better variant of this card, so you will want to put her in here instead of that one. But Musk is a good alternative. So her effect is, when this unit is placed, you may reveal the top card of your deck. So it triggers the grade 3s, and then you may look at the top card of your deck and then put it back. And when a card is put into your trigger zone, put this card into your soul, so it builds soul, and then you may reveal the top card of your deck. So when she is placed, she reveals. When your trigger is placed, she goes into soul and then reveals again. So it gives you multiple chances to hit Goddess of the Sun, or other cards that will trigger from being revealed in your deck. So she's a very good utility card for the deck. The other grade 2 we play is 4 copies of Battle Sister Choquette. So Choquette has the ability on Vanguard or Rearguard. You may Soul Blast 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, look for up to 1 grade 3 from among them, put it on top of your deck, shuffle the other 4 cards to the bottom of your deck, and if you put them to the bottom of your deck, she gets plus 5k power. So she's a 14k Vanguard or Rearguard, and then she looks for your grade 3s and leaves them on top of that for your drive checks or for your draw abilities. So she's another good grade 3 searcher. Last, we played 3 copies of the new grade 2 Administer Angel. Administer Angel. Can't pronounce that word for loving God. Vanguard of Rearguard. So this is the new ride fixer. Same effect as always. Discard this card at the beginning of the ride phase. Look for top 5 for a grade 2 or less. Add it to your hand. Blah blah blah. His unique skill is, when this unit attacks while boosted, counterblast 1. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 card from among them. Put it into your hand and put any number of the remaining cards on top or bottom of your deck in any order. So again, manipulating the top card of your deck. So a lot of cards here reveal, manipulate. That way, if you can manipulate the top card of your deck, you can reveal the right cards. That's all of the grade 2s that we play. There are variants that I have for other cards. Again, I just have to get them. So you have Vanguard abilities and things like that for your grade 2. So those grade 2 variants might change, might shift, might add, might take out. It all depends. But this is just what I have for right now. Going into the grade 1s, we play 4 copies of Petal Fairy effect. Put this card into your soul. Look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or bottom of your deck. If you put it on the bottom of your deck, choose one of your units and give it plus 5k. So again, manipulating that top card. 3 copies of Director Angel effect. When placed, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 card from among them, and put it on top of your deck, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck. So again, you can reveal, manipulate the top card of your deck. If it's a trigger, put it on top. If it's Amaterasu, put it on top, trigger the effect, bind, 10k and a crit. 2 copies of Diviner Moot. His ability is, when placed, counterblast 1. Put a normal unit from your drop zone on the top of your deck, and if you do, he gets plus 15k power. So he becomes a 23k booster by himself. And he's able to put cards like Amaterasu back on top of your deck, so you can trigger her off of cards like Director Angel. And we need a little bit of counter turn because there's a lot of counter blasting. We play 2 copies of Oracle Guardian Gemini. Very simple. If you have 3 or more cards in your damage zone, put this card into your soul, counter charge 1. So you have a lot of soul charging, a lot of manipulating, a lot of revealing. That way you have full control of what your top card of the deck is, and full control of what you are going to perform. Now, since this is a premium deck, we are playing 4 copies of Magical Calico. This is for a OTK play. Most times than not, your opponent cannot survive when you go into this. Calico is a forerunner, but unfortunately you cannot run this as your starter. At GB1 Oracle, for those who don't know, Oracle is a keyword for OTT. It means you must have 5 or more cards in your hand to perform this skill. Put this card into your soul, choose a card from your hand, and discard it. Search your deck for up to 3 cards from your deck, reveal them. Your opponent chooses 2 cards from among them, put the chosen cards to the drop zone, and then put the remaining card to your hand and shuffle your deck. So the idea behind this is that it doesn't say reveal 3 different units. You can reveal 3 of the same unit. Your opponent chooses 2 of them to go to the graveyard, or drop zone in this matter, and then 1 card to go to your hand. But if you do this with Amaterasu, it triggers her effect 3 times. So after this resolves, you banish the top 3 of your cards face up. Excuse me. Give your Vanguard plus 30k power and 3 additional crits. And with NRG zone, we have cards. We have Vanguard that's going to restand and give power to the front line. We'll get there when we get there, but this is a part of an OTK strategy where most times than not, your opponent is not going to live through this. We play the 1 V starter. We play the 1 Cater Sanctuary Overtrigger. We do love our crits. We also play 4 Draw PG and 4 10k heals. You need as much defense as you can get in this deck. Sometimes you're not be able to go to your G card innings or whatever the case means, so you want that 20k shield just to viable. The crits are changeable for the stride crits, or the go into soul plus 10 crits, or the new effect crits that were errated. Your choices are, you have a vast choice of what your triggers can be, or what effects you can choose. If you feel more comfortable running the grade 3 Hill Guardians, that's also a choice. But just for simplifying the deck, when you're starting out, those are the triggers that you want to grab. Alright, so next we're going to go into the G zone and take a look at those interesting cards. We're playing one copy of Sterling Witch Momo. Momo is a part of the one turn kill OTK. So her effect is when this unit attacks, counterblast 1, turn a card face up in your G zone. Discard up to 3 cards from your hand. For every card discarded, give your front row plus 10k. If 3 cards were discarded, this card can reset at the end of the battle, drive -2. So on top of the Calico giving your Vanguard plus 30k power and 3 crit, she also gives plus 30k power to her entire front row. So she's getting an additional 60k power on top of her own 27. So 27 plus 60 is 82. Math. 87, I'm sorry. 87 on top of other cards that can give her more power. So she could reach somewhere within the 90k range, 90 to 100k range, just simple by just attacking once, and then because she restands, you're getting that another pressure push. Not to mention your other Vanguards who are sitting there ready to go after she's done attacking, and that's 4 dry checks in a turn. Most people can't survive that. Next, we play 2 copies of Happiness Gathering Dragon King. This is most likely going to be your first stride. His effect is very simple. Act, turn a card face up in your G zone once per turn. Reveal the top card of your deck equal to the number of cards in your G zone plus 2. So you're going to reveal 3. All normal units will be called. All trigger cards revealed will activate and then go to your hand. So this is a way to build a board and gain some additional pressure at your first stride turn, and then just start building off of that. That is the entire point of this. You really don't want to go into this card during the late game because there's a chance you might deck yourself out. Hold on, I'm recording. Sorry about that. The next card we're playing is 2 copies of Lord of Guidance, Wakuhime. This is another ending card. Lord of Guidance Wakuhime is very simple. Oracle. When she attacks, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, draw 1 card, put 1 card from your hand on top of your deck. 9 times out of 10, when you perform this skill, you're putting the over trigger back on top of your deck. Very simple, but very powerful. You are going to telegraph to your opponent what you're doing, but the main point is, can they stop it? Finally, we play the bread and butter of the deck, and what most people are afraid when it comes to this archetype, this clan. We play 4 copies of Stillwater Festival Deity, Ikishikama. Very scary card, very powerful skill. So her both skills are act. Once per turn, counterblast 1, soul blast 1. Choose a card with the same. Choose a card face down in your G zone with the same name as this card to turn it face up, and then draw 2 cards. So she is a pot of greed for just performing her skill first. Her secondary skill is Generation Breakthrough. Now this is where it gets scary for your opponent. Oracle. When you are an Oracle and you perform this skill, your opponent can no longer for the turn call G Guardians or Grade Zeros from their hand to Guardian Circle. So she turns off any G Guardian and any Grade Zero, which in this game is your biggest shield value. She turns both of them off. And within most decks, people are running Grade Zero Perfect Guards. So basically she turns those off too. And then swings face. 9 times out of 10, your opponent doesn't have enough 10k shields and 5k shields in your hand to guard most of your attacks. So she'll probably be your finishing stride or your secondary stride if you're able to close the game out that quick. For G Guardians, we're playing 3 copies of Son of Eternity Amaterasu. Basically, she's just here to give you a plus 10k and to filter the top card of your deck. Either you're going to leave it on top for a trigger, or if it's not, put it to the bottom of the deck. That way it's out of the way for your damage check. That is the only thing that she's here to do. To me, this is the only G Guardian that you really need. I would run a Dismal in this deck just to protect certain cards on the board. Besides that, the other G Guardians really don't carry enough weight with this deck to actually warrant playing them. If you don't have Dismal, you can just run a 4th copy of her. It'll be fine. It's not really something that you care to have, or the other abilities that really don't do too much. She just does everything that you need to do to try to survive your opponent's turn. So that is the OTT portion. Try it out. Let me know down in the comments how it goes for you. If you enjoyed this play style, if you're a Susanoo or Goddess of the Moon fan, or a Magus fan, or a Witch fan, please let me know, so we can spaz about how good the OTT clan is across the board. For our next deck we're going to run into, because we've been going for 30 minutes right now, we're still in the gambit, we're going to go into Gold Paladin, one of my favorite units, who I think is very underrated in this game and deserves respect on his name. This is Great Silver Wolf Garmor. For anyone who knows me personally, they know that if I play a Gold Paladin deck, it's going to be a Garmor deck, or a Garmor Liberator deck. I don't touch any other version of a Gold Paladin deck if it's not Garmor. Put respect on my boy's name. So, we're playing the V version of Garmor, which is 4 copies of Great Silver Wolf Garmor. For those who don't know his ability, it's constant Vanguard skill. If the cards in your hand are 1 or less, your opponent can no longer attack your rearguards and must only attack the Vanguard. They gave him a Brave skill. I don't know why, and the fact that your opponent can now only concentrate their attack force on your Vanguard, to me, is dumb. It should have been the other way around. If your hand is 1 or less, your opponent cannot attack your Vanguard and must go after your rear guards. To me, that would have been more efficient. Or better yet, just not give him this skill, period. I don't know what they were thinking. Now, his other skill is auto when placed, counterblast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, call 1, put the other 2 to the bottom of the deck, do not shuffle. So your basic Gold Paladin search skill. They should have gave him something else, so you're not locked in that you have to keep riding him the performance skill, because if you can't ride a new copy of him, he's just a vanilla on board, which I don't think that's right. Pairing up with him is 4 copies of Battlestorm Sagamore, which is another card that I think they should have gave a better skill to, or another skill to, because again, if you're forced to ride into him, you perform a skill, and if you can't ride again, he's another vanilla boss unit. His skill is when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard from hand, Soul Blast 1, draw 1 card, and then call 1 card from your hand. So another type of Gold Paladin call effect. I don't know what Bushro was on when they made these cards, or did they just made them deliberately bad so you would have to play the Ezel stuff, but they could have gave them at least better skills than these. They're great for what they do, they're very good extenders, but it's just not enough. But I will always play it. So we're going to go into the grade 2s, which are the bread and butter of most Gold Paladin decks. We play 4 copies of Player of the Holy Bow Vivian. Vivian's skill.
Daddy.
Out. Out.
Daddy.
Out. Which are most of the skills. I'm sorry about that. My daughter just walked in. So, parents out there, you know how it is. Put it down in the comments if you're a parent Vanguard player. You guys know how it is. Back to what I was saying. So I played 4 copies of Player of the Holy Bow Vivian. Vanguard or Rearguard when placed. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Look at the top 3 cards of the deck. Call 1 from one of them. The other 2 to the bottom of the deck. Do not shuffle. Similar to Garmor's effect, but she gets plus 3k. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Garmor has an additional ability. When his skill is resolved, he gets up to 6 of your units plus 3k power. So they're very similar to what they do. We also play 4 copies of Knight of Faint Sun, Marcia. So she is our countercharger. Very old school card. Unite, 8k power, 5k shield. Vanguard, Rearguard, or G Guardian when her card is placed. She gets her Unite skills off of 2 or more Rearguards are placed. She also has Vanguard, Rearguard, and G Guardian resist. Very important. Your opponent can't get rid of her. At the end of your turn, or at the end of a turn, even in your opponent's turn, because there are certain cards that can move her from Guardian Circle to the Rearguard Circle. At the end of a turn, put her into soul and counter charge 1. You need decent counter charge, because a lot of these cards have counterblast effects. So by having her being able to deal with that for you, and also plus you 1 soul, very good card. And again, resist. They can't lock her, they can't bind her, they can't retire her, and they can't bounce her. She cannot be chosen. We play 4 copies of Cloudwing Eagle. This is our grade 2 beat stick, Vanguard or Rearguard. Whenever a card is placed on Vanguard, Rearguard, or Guardian Circle, he gets plus 5k power. It stacks. You're going to call a lot of units. He's going to get very big, very fast. This is also part of your end game for the G Zone. We'll go into that for a moment. But having him on the board and then you just start spamming cards out, even from your hand, he gets very big, very fast. And we play 1 copy of Protevent Angel. So for all my Gurgit Gold Paladin players, you guys know what this card does. For those who don't, if the cards in your hand are 1 or less, you can counterblast 1. During this turn, your opponent can only use 1 Sentinel for the turn, and he gets plus 10k. So you give them 1 Sentinel chance to perfect guard your effects or your abilities or your attacks or whatever the case being. After that, they can no longer use it. If they have extra Sentinels in hand, they are locked out of it. And you're gonna be swinging more than 7 times at their face. This can end the game very fast because it just stops a portion of their guarding capability. So those are all the grade 2s. So we're going to go into the grade 1s now. Grade 1s are very simple. We play 4 copies of the Grade 3 Searcher, Gargaduke. On place Vanguard or Rearguard, look at the top 5, add a grade 3, discard 1, yada yada. His unique skill, Vanguard or Rearguard, if you're in a Unite state, meaning if you call 2 or more Rearguards, which is this version of Pseudo Unite, he gets plus 5k. So this is a way to build numbers on board. We play 4 copies of Fast Chase Liberator Josephus. He's your ride target that you kind of want to go into because he pairs well with Vivian. When rolled upon, look at the top card of your deck and you may call it. If you don't, leave it on top of your deck. If he is called out of the deck, you may Soul Blast 1 and counter charge, and if so, you may Soul Blast 1 an additional time and draw 1 card. Normally that draw 1 card you're not really going to use too much because again, you don't want to burn your soul out too fast, but that counter charge does come in handy. And we also play an old school card in Sunshine Knight Jeffrey. So Jeffrey is a very old school card, again for those Gurgit players back in the day. When at the Unite, Generation Break 1, at the end of the battle that he boosted a unit, you may move him to the soul and draw 1 card. So he replaces himself and also pluses 1 to the soul, similar to Marcia. So you have a bunch of counter charges, a bunch of ways to draw a card to get your hand advantage up and things like that, so you can keep defending and keep playing through your opponent's turns. Next, we're going to go into the grade 0s. We have our 1 starter in Coel. We play 4 copies of Ketchko Liberator. For those who don't know what he does, when he is called out of the deck due to a skill, you may put him to the bottom deck and then look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Again, call a card that is not him. So he kind of refreshes your top 3 if you didn't get a decent enough card. We play 4 copies of Liberator Shaggy Rabbit. You do need a counter charge. You do need a soul charge in this variant of the deck. But the main thing is, Catch Call and Shaggy Rabbit are both high beasts. They work towards a stride that the Garmor stride, and we'll go over that very soon. But because he got eroded in the latest history collection, he is now a 10k heal trigger and a 15k shield. So they did boost his stats up, so he is within the hemisphere of power. We play 4 copies of the Gold Paladin Stride. Again, most of our triggers are high beasts. This does matter. And then we play 4 copies of Halo Shield Mark. Now I wish this was the Gold Eagle Liberator Perfect Guard Retrain, but I know for nostalgia reasons they went with Halo Shell Mark. But if this was also a high beast, this would be a very good thing for Garmor. Alright, that is the entirety of the main deck. Excuse me. We're going to go into the Stride deck now. So, we play one copy of Golden Knight of Gleaming Fang Garmor. So this is the one and only Garmor Stride that we got, but it's very good. And a little caveat, this does also consider itself a Royal Paladin, so you can put this in any Royal Paladin G-Zone, and it does matter for what his skills do, because I'm going to explain. So his first skill is Act, once per turn, Generation Break 2, Unite. You may Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Sorry, that's the different skill, sorry. His Act skill is Vanguard, once per turn, Generation Break 2. You may return any card from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck. Reveal the top 6 cards of your deck. For every high beast revealed, you choose one of your rear guards or one of your units and give it plus 4k power. If 4 or more high beasts were revealed, you give Garmor an additional crit. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that unless you build your deck around having nothing but high beasts in your deck like the original deck was. But if you can cheese it, if it does happen and you can cheese this out, you're going to make your opponent sweat. Now, the other ability for this card is, which makes this card very, very good, is Act, Soul Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, call a rear guard, put the rest of the bottom deck, and shuffle your deck. This skill is not once per turn. You can perform this skill as much as you're able to perform the skill, which means off of this one card, you can fill your board and save every other card in your hand. If you have enough soul and counter blast to provide for his skill, you can fill your entire board without wasting a single card from your hand. This was the original skill of Garmor back in the original variant of the game, which was a Limber Break 4 skill to do this. They just took that skill, made it better for G. Can't go wrong with it. Now for that OTK turn I was talking about, we played one copy of the Xerath Dragon Ultima. That's why you didn't see any over trigger in this deck. For those who don't know, Ultima is a Xerath Dragon, which means he needs an ultimate stride cost, which means you discard the same name as your current Vanguard to go into this. You may only go into the ultimate stride when you have 3 or more cards face up in your G zone. You perform his skill with a Counter Blast 2. Search your deck for up to 4 cards. Call 2 of them to Rearguard Circle, and then shuffle your deck, and then put the other 2 cards on top of your deck. So what you want to do is put a stand trigger and a critical trigger, because the caveat to this card is when you perform a drive check and you reveal a trigger, every unit on your board gets that a trigger effect. So when you drive check, when you attack with all your rear guards, when you drive check a stand trigger, they all stand. When you drive check a crit, they all get the crit. So you can get like 7 units on the board and attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attacks, and then restand all the units and get another 4. You are attacking your opponent for like 9 times with nothing but raw pressure. 9 times out of 10, this is going to end the game unless they hit a lucky over trigger or a lucky heal trigger on the last heal, and you can't go any further. The caveat to going into a Xerath Dragon is that if you're not able to kill your opponent and he returns to the G zone, you lose your entire G zone. So any GB effects that you need to go off will get shut off. So if you're gonna go into this, make sure that you know you're gonna kill your opponent. We played 2 copies of Golden Dragon Spear Cross Dragon. Excuse me. This is your first stride, your second stride, most of the time. Effect is very simple. Unite. While you have a grade 3 Vanguard and you're in a Unite state, you can Counter Blast 2, discard 1 card, and Superior Stride him, which means if you miss out on your stride turn or you don't have any stride fodder, don't worry about it. It works like it's a little better than the History Collection stride. You can just stride into this, and keep your plays going. His other skill is act once per turn, Soul Blast 1, turn a card face up in the G zone, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and call 2. He can build a board. We played 2 copies of Bluish Flame, True Liberator, Holy Flame. We do not play him for his skill. He is, excuse me, he is the flip fodder for Spearcross Dragon. That is all. That is the only reason why we play him in this deck. But for those who play a True Liberator deck, you could stride into him. Figure out. You guys can go look at what he does. He only works for Liberator cards, so I only put him there just as flip fodder. We played 2 copies of Golden Dragon, Glorious Reigning Dragon. This used to be your finisher back in the day. Glorious Reigning has a very powerful skill. When he attacks, you may counterblast 1, flip a copy of himself face up in the G zone. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. For every card that you have face up in your G zone, you may call a rear guard. So similar to the ultimate turn, you attack, you take your attack, perform his skill. I forgot to mention, after you do that counterblast, you must send 2 of your rear guards to the bottom of the deck. Very important. You can also recur your triggers or your over trigger back in your deck by using this skill. Keep in mind. Same thing with the Garmore Stride. From your drop zone, if your over triggers in your drop zone, you may put it to the bottom of your deck. That's why it's very important that you can also run this in Royal Paladin. You can also use this just to recur your over trigger in Royal Paladin to the bottom of your deck. Yeah, so if you have like 6 cards facing the G zone or 7 cards facing the G zone, you can call a brand new board. Attack with all your rear guards, shove 2 of them to the bottom deck, call a brand new board. Excuse me. Just getting over a cold. And then if you call 3 or more cards, you countercharge 1 and soul charge 1. So he recurs his cost. Very good, very strong finisher. That's it for the strides. I'm going to go into the G Guardians. We play 1 Elise, 2 Sanctified Dragon, 2 Slamy Flare. All these cards basically do the same thing. Look at the top 2, look at the top 5, call up to 2 of those units to the Guardian Circle, call to 2 different grades to the Guardian Circle. If you call 2 or more grade 1 or higher, you get to draw an additional card. This just allows you to, all these allow you to look for your PGs, because your draw PG doesn't say when placed, it says when put, to perform that skill or just be able to guard an attack. Elise has the unique skill for her counterblast to turn 1 of these face up. Look at the top 2, call them to Guardian Circle. If the attack is look at the top 2 and call 1. I apologize, call 1. If the attack is successfully guarded, you may move that unit to rear guard circle. Keep in mind, it is a move, not a place. So any on-place effects will not go off. They did that on purpose. That way you cannot start superior calling on your opponent's turn. I wish they would change that, because it'll make a very good, interesting tech against certain other decks to start playing on your opponent's turn. But I guess they didn't want to do that because it begins to start feeling too much like Yu-Gi-Oh! But all these cards are very solid. They all do what they need to do. They all perform Unite skill very well and allow you to look for certain things out of your deck so you can guard properly and survive your opponent's turn. Alright, that is it for the Gold Paladins. Alright, so our last deck we're going to go into is one of my favorites. I've had this deck for just as long as I've had a similar version of this playmat. And if you guys know what the units are on here, put it down in chat. If you guys have been fans of my channel, you guys should know what this deck is. I will be doing an updated deck profile of this deck, so look forward to it. For those who don't know, look forward to that video. But this next deck has been a deck I have built alongside this clan's archetype, because they were the weird, somewhat playable, cool archetype decks for their clans. So what I'm talking about is Grand Blue, Ghosties. So we used to play the original Ghosty leader, the Anthra, for back in the original Vanguard. But they gave us a brand new Ghosty leader, which became a staple in all Grand Blue decks. But unlike all other Grand Blue decks, we run her as the boss unit, not an extender. Well, she is an extender in this deck too, but we also want to keep her on the Vanguard circle too. But we run her as the boss. So for those who don't know, we play 4 copies of Ghosty Leader, the Beatrice. Vanguard Vanguard, when placed from anywhere, Soul Blast 1. Call a Ghosty unit. Call one card. Call a card from your drop zone not named Ghosty Leader Beatrice to rear guard. So she allows you to basically toolbox your entire drop zone for any card outside of her for a single place in Soul Blast. Her other skills are constant. All of your units with Ghosty in their card names get 5k power and 5k shield. So she bumps all of their defensive and offensive abilities. And then her other skill, she has 3 skills. Whenever a rear guard is retired, you may counterblast 1, revive a normal Ghosty unit with a grade less than the unit retired. So if you retire a grade 3, you get a grade 2. Retire a grade 2, you get a grade 1. Retire a grade 1, you get a grade 0. So she basically reverse time leaps backwards. Well, that's why I said reverse, backwards, and allows you to get multi-attack off in this deck. There are 3 Ghosty units that tie very well with this skill, and 1 card outside of the Ghosty archetype, which also ties very well with this skill. And that card is 2 copies of Skull Dragon. Skull Dragon is very simple what he does. He gets plus 2k power for every card in your drop zone, and at the end of the battle that he attacked on rear guard, he retires himself. So retire this grade 3 at the end of the battle. Beatrice skill activates, get a grade 2. Caveat to this is, you cannot call this card from hand to rear guard circle. You must call him out of your deck. So if you get him into your drop zone, Beatrice can get him out of the drop zone onto rear guard circle. They tie very well together. In my opinion, he could have been anything. They could have made him a grade 3 Ghosty. They could have. They really could have. And the last grade 3 play for when we go into our stride turns are 2 copies of Mighty Rogue Nightstorm. This is an extender for the deck. Hollow, Generation Break 1. At the end of the battle that he attacked, you may call any card from your drop zone that is not named himself to an adjacent rearguard circle. So you can't call the unit over him, you must call it to another rearguard circle. And then he has a Vanguard skill. We're not going to really go into that because, again, you really don't ever want to ride this. So going into our grade 2s, we play 1 copy of Jessie the Ghosty. Jessie is normally going to be the Ghosty that you call after your Skull Dragon dies. So Jessie has the ability in drop zone. You may retire 2 of your rear guards, and you may call this card out. You may call this card out to rear guard circle. I can't talk. Then his other ability is when he attacks, he gets plus 5k. So on top of Beatrice's plus 5k she gives him, he becomes a 19k beater. And then at the end of the battle that he attacked, you may retire him. And if you have not used this skill before, you may countercharge 1. So Beatrice, he will retire. Beatrice will counterblast 1 to call a grade 1, and then he will countercharge that counterblast. So you're basically not using anything to get multi-attack. Next, we play 1 copy of Skeleton Cannoneer. This is for our pseudo Griffin plays. This allows you to combo into a pop on your opponent's turn. I'll explain to those who don't know how to do it. He also has the other ability. When he does this, you may call him as hollowed. If you do, when you perform this skill, you may draw 1 card. We play 2 copies of Greedshade. Greedshade has the ability on Vanguard, Vanguard and Rearguard. During your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, he gets plus 5k power. Then if he's placed on Rearguard from anywhere, You may discard the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard and add 1 card from them back to your hand. So he is a pseudo pot of greed, average type of card. Very good, very helpful for the utility. We played 3 copies of Pirate Swordsman Columbard. This is so funny enough. This card is not similar to his G variant. They gave that skill to another card. So his skill is Vanguard or Rearguard 1 place. You make Counterblast 1. Send any card from your deck to the drop zone. You may only use the effect of this card once per turn. Unlike a lot of other cards which are soft once per turn, he is a hard once per turn. For me, that is a first. I've never seen a Vanguard card that actually has a hard once per turn skill. So that is very when he was first revealed, I was like, wow, they really went the Yu-Gi-Oh route on this card. But for reasons I can understand, he is very good because you can imagine playing 3 of him in 1 turn. That's 3 additional cards of whatever you want to the graveyard. Not to mention that when he does put a card to the graveyard, he calls any card you want out of the graveyard. You can fill out your entire board with grade 3s, grade 2s, grade 3s, grade 1s, grade 2s while you're at grade 2. I can see why they made him hard once per turn, because it would break your grade 2 turn. I'm just saying, I can see why. Now the last card is we play Reverting Fencer. She is the grade 2 ride fixer for Grand Blue. Funny enough, they gave Columbard's old skill to her. Outside of the ride fixing skill, her unique skill is when this unit is boosted, you may counterblast 1 and call any rear guard from your drop zone to rear guard circle with a different card name from this one. So she's just another extender like like Nightstorm, just that she needs to be boosted to do it. So that's all the grade 2s that we play. If you guys notice, we don't play Ghost Ship because I didn't see the need to draw an additional card. It's fine if we do, it's fine if you don't. It won't kill the deck. I know the other Grand Blue variants all play it at 1, but again, you don't really need to. You can take out a copy of of Columbard to play that 1 copy if you like. If not, Grade 1s, we played 4 copies of Dolph the Ghosty. So this is one of the only decks that I kind of know of that can play the original Grade 1 V Perfect Guards, only because it's a Ghosty. His effect is, when placed on Vanguard Circle, you may draw a card and then discard a card. It's Grand Blue. You want to get cards in the drop zone. So tie this in with the starter, you're drawing 1, discard 1. So you're technically, what is it? Plussing 1, negging 0 on this value, while you're also plussing 1 to the drop zone. Then we play 3 copies of Damien the Ghosty. Damien is the grade 1 variant of Jesse. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the retire call himself from the drop zone effect, but he does have the ability, Vanguard or Vanguard 1 place, you may choose any Ghosty unit in your deck and put it into the drop zone. So he can drop your Beatrices in there, your Jessies in there, your Dolphs in there, that way you can use Greed Shade or other cards to get them back out. Then he also has the other ability at the end of the battle that he attacked. You may retire him, and if you have not used his ability to do so, you may countercharge 1. Again, Skull Dragon, retire, Beatrice, counterblast 1 into Jesse. And Jesse attacks, retire, countercharge. Beatrice sees the grade 2 retire, counterblast, go into Damien. Damien attacks, retire, countercharge. Then you go into a grade 0 Ghosty, which we're going to get into in a minute, and then carry on from there. We also played 3 copies of Pat the Ghosty. Pat the Ghosty is a very unique card. He has a 15k shield. Under Beatrice makes him a 20k shield. And he has the ability in the drop zone. If you have 10 or more cards in your drop zone, and your opponent's Vanguard is attacking your Vanguard, you may call him to Guardian Circle, and then at the end of the guard step, you bind him. That way you can't keep recurring the effect. There is a card that allows you to get them back, and it's an overdress card. Unfortunately, I don't play it in this deck. I didn't have room for it, but you can run that card. You can run that card, That way you can keep recurring packs back to the deck. The last Ghosty we play is Quincy the Ghosty. The reason why we play Quincy is because this is another way to get your over trigger back to your deck, or your other triggers back to your deck. And again, he is not once per turn. He is a soft once per turn. Drop Zone, Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1. Choose one of your grade 0 rear guards and put it at the bottom of your deck and call this unit to the rear guard circle that unit was on. Retire this unit when your Vanguard with Ghosty in its card name is attacked. You may pay the cost. If you do, you give your Vanguard plus 5k. So that other effect is great, but you really want him for the first effect, because if you have a bunch of triggers in your hand, you can call a trigger, call him out, call a trigger over him, call him out again, and just keep going as much as you can until you get a lot of your triggers back in deck. Use another card skill to shuffle your deck. But mostly because if you hit your over trigger, or you draw your over trigger, not hit, but if you draw your over trigger and you want it back in your deck, Quincy's your guy. So that is all of the grade 1s. Next, we're going to go into the grade 0s. We play a copy of the V Starter, Undying Departed Grenache. I do want to change it to the Ghosty starter. I just haven't gotten the card yet. They all do the same thing, but because it's Ghosty, it ties into the archetype. That way, if you're forced to call it out due to Beatrice's skill, you're not losing any value off of it. We play the G version of Grenache. This allows you to, at the Generation Break 1 state, when this unit is retired due to the effect of a hollow, you may countercharge 2. So for those who don't know, hollow is Grand Blue's keyword. When your card is in the hollow state at the end of the turn, it immediately kills itself. Then we play 3 copies of the V version of Mick the Ghosty and Family. So when you're done going into the Damien play, and you use Beatrice's skill to call a grade 0 Ghosty unit, you're going to call him. For the reasons that when this unit is placed on rear guard by a card ability, you may discard the top 2 cards of your deck, which means mill, and then at the end of the battle that this unit attacked or boosted, retire this unit, choose one of your units, and give it plus 10k. So at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, kill it, give Beatrice, your Vanguard, plus 10k, so making her a 22k swinging Vanguard by herself. Especially if you're going first. If you're going first and your opponent's at grade 2, they're going to have to drop a couple of cards to guard that attack, on top of all the other attacks you already did. And then he also has the other unique skill, Drop Zone. When your Vanguard attacks, if your Drop Zone has 10 or more cards in it, you may counterblast 1 and call this card. So his second skill triggers his first skill. Keep that in mind. Next, we're going to go into the triggers. We play the 1 Stokea over trigger for obvious reasons. We play 4 copies of Rick the Ghosty for the only reason it's a Ghosty deck. He is a Ghosty. Beatrice makes his 20k shield into a 25k shield. And again, if you have to choose a Ghosty grade 0, here's another option. We play Chad the Ghosty, 4 copies of the Into Soul. Sorry, not the Into Soul, but the Stride Crit. Again, he's a Ghosty. We play 4 copies of Wild Sea Banshee. This is the Into Soul plus 10k. 9 times out of 10, you're really not using her skill. If you can, you can. If you don't, you don't. And it really doesn't bother the deck too much. But if you want to push for a little bit more power in your Vanguard attack, she's the way to go. And then we play 3 copies of Rough Sea Banshee from the G era. Her ability is put her into Soul, draw 1 card. So she is a neg-0, but she is also a deck cycler for your pieces. So we have 7 Banshees, 8 Ghosties, 1 extremely overpowered dragon for your triggers. So that's basically all you need. You don't need any draws because you're filtering everything out of your drop zone, and you're running the grade 1 PG because it's a Ghosty, so you really can't run the draw PG. You can also take out one of the grade 1 Ghosty PGs for the Element Sartario, I believe that's how you pronounce it. If you want, again, not 100% needed, but it does boost the value of your deck. Next, we're going to go into the strides, and this will be the last portion of this video. I hope you guys have been enjoying We've been recording for about an hour right now. This has been my longest deck profile or not reactions, but deck review that I've ever done. So if you guys enjoy this, do you rather have the deck profiles done in a big group instead of just solo by themselves? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, please like, subscribe, share this video, share all the videos. If you got somebody who wants to learn Vanguard but doesn't want to pay a lot of money to start, this is a very good starting platform for them. Allows you to play a lot of cheap cards, a lot of cheap decks, and be viable. For the Ghosty Stride deck, not Stride deck, for the Ghosty G Zone, we play 2 copies of Ghosty Great Emperor Big Obadiah, big man on campus. So Obadiah's effect is very simple. Act once per turn, counterblast 1, turn a card face up in the G Zone. You may mill up to 5 cards out of your deck, and then call 2 cards for every card face up in your G Zone. So when you go into them first, you're really only going to be able to call 2 cards, but those 2 cards can plus you into 4 more cards. Usually if you're going to go into the second stride of him, you're going to be able to fill out an entire board by the time you go into the second stride. If your opponent decides to guard restrict you, damage to restrict you, you can go to the old one, which is Ghosty Great King Obadiah. Obadiah's effect is that when he is stridden into, you may call 1 normal Ghosty unit behind him. 9 times out of 10, you're going to call Beatrice, with Beatrice's skill is going to call another unit. Once we got Beatrice made this card 10 times better. No counterblast, no nothing. All you have to do is stride into him and have a Beatrice in the drop zone. Next, we play 4 copies of Demon Sea Queen Mordred. Mordred here is to be the flip fodder for Marduk, but once you get all 4 copies of her up, her skill goes stupid live. So her effect is act once per turn, counterblast 1, turn a copy of herself face up in the G Zone. So these 2 would turn 2, she'll turn the 3rd. And then you're allowed to call up to 3 cards. Call up to 1 card for every copy of herself face up in the G Zone, which is going to be 3, whose total grades equal 4. So you may call a grade 3 and a grade 1 and a grade 0, or a grade 0, 2 grade 1s and a grade 2, or a grade 0 and 2 grade 2s. So any combination of those whose grades equal 4 to rearguard circle, she gains all of their original power for herself. So you can call a Skull Dragon and a grade 1 Ghosty and a grade 0 Ghosty, and she'll get a grand total of 25k power on top of her already 27. And then by doing that, you're able to pop off for other things. So most people don't know what this card does. Most people are not even aware of this card's existence. So if you're able to go into this and they don't know and their hand is lacking, you can sneak out a win right from underneath them. We play 1 copy of Bartholomew. This is one of the other finishers in the deck. Excuse me. When this unit attacks, you may counterblast 1, choose a card. Choose up to 3 cards with different card names from your drop zone and call them to rearguard. And those called units get plus 5k power to the end of turn. And then if your drop zone has 30 or more cards, your opponent must call 3 or more cards to Guardian Circle when they guard. So this is just another version of like things like Crystal Luster, Chain Ranker. Morfessa is a Battle Door effect. It just makes it harder for your opponent to guard your attacks. And again, with the cards that we're running in this deck, you're able to multi-attack out of your drop zone. So you're going to be swinging more than just 3 times, maybe 5 times, even maybe 6 or 7 times. But your opponent has to guard 3 or more cards from their hand for every attack. So the idea behind this is to get your drop zone up to 30 and then just start attacking. Next, we play 1 copy of Bad Bounty. Bad Bounty's effect is that at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, you may pay the cost, which is a counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand, discard 3 cards from your hand, turn a card face up in the G zone, and then you may choose a grade 3 Grand Blue unit from your drop zone and ride it as the Vanguard as stand. This card just allows you to get 2 Vanguard attacks in a single turn, but also allows you to re-ride into your Beatrice to start plussing more units to the board. That way you can roll into Beatrice's multi-attack effect while your opponent's hand is low from guarding your stride turn. So that's it for the G-Guards. I mean, not G-Guards, that's it for the stride units. Very simple. Next we're going to go to the G-Guardians. We play 1 copy of Diabolus of Socialation Negranora. Negranora is our G-Guardian flipper. Her effect is Generation Break 1, Soul Blast 1, turn a G-Guardian face up in your G-Zone. Choose 2 cards from your drop zone with different grades, and you may call them to Guardian Circle. So again, you can call your PGs, because the grade 1 PGs also have when put effects, not when placed. So they can perform perfect arts from the drop zone, just for a Soul Blast. Then you play 2 copies of Diabolus Princess Singing Under the Moonlight Arena. Her effect is when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, counterblast 1, and the attacking unit gets -1 crit until the end turn for every 10 cards in your drop zone. So again, if you have 20 cards in your drop zone, they're going to go to -1. Most times they're not. You're going to neg them by 1, so their attacking unit is not going to hit you. That is what she's for. Use her on the Vanguard Circle. If your opponent hits the over trigger, use her on the over trigger unit just to save yourself. And then we play the best G-Guardian in Grand Blue, which is Great Witch Doctor of Banquet Negra Lily. This is our Denial Griffin paired with Skeleton Cannoneer. So her effect is you may counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards, and retire it. When this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 1 unit with Ghosty in its card name from your drop zone and call it to Rearguard Circle. So you're going to call Beatrice, and then she gets plus 10k power to the shield. So you're going to call Beatrice. Use Beatrice's effect to call Skeleton Cannoneer. Use Skeleton Cannoneer's hollow effect to pop one of your opponent's rear guards. For this, you're going to need 2 Counter Blasts and a Soul, and 1 Soul Blast to perform this Denial Griffin combo. Comes in handy. I cannot mention how many times my opponent hit the over trigger and they think they got game. I go into this, pop their over trigger unit, they're dumbfounded because they did not know what Grand Blue is capable of. You gotta research the meta. You gotta see what is viable and what other clans can do, not just yours. So that has been our Vanguard deck profile gambit. I hope you enjoyed. It's been a little over an hour, but I hope it has been an enjoyable hour for those who watched towards the end. So in closing, we have went over Grand Blue, Gold Paladin, OTT, and a variant of a Dark Irregulars overdress build. So for those who have been watching my channel, you guys know I've been doing a lot of overdress into the premium meta. Just so for those overdress players who really want to try their hand at premium but only have overdress cards, it's very cheap to do so. This deck doesn't cost a lot. The pieces in the deck to transfer over don't really cost a lot. They have been reprinted to the ground, so they're basically sent. So if you guys want to try premium but don't know which clan to go into, but you know what nation you want, I have just about almost all the boss units with their variations of certain different clans that they can go into for the premium setup, just to get you started if you're interested. So guys, like I said before, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you guys already knew, or you guys have any questions or opinions of how to make the decks better, please leave a comment down below. Like, subscribe, ring that bell notification so you guys are always updated, or updated to when I drop another video. In the next coming year with Vanguard Divine, we are going to try to see what they're going to be coming out with, what new trial decks are going to be coming out with, and things like that for the premium landscape, and see how we can make these decks and those decks work for the premium meta for all our budget players and our new players who are just interested in dipping their toe into this wild, wild west of a format. But I have been Mr. Budget. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, we will see you guys here next time. Bye.